All right, welcome. My name is Carla Ballard, co-founder and CEO of YING, and we have recently established our new foundation that we're really excited about, which is called Bank on Your Network. We are really focused on revolutionizing community engagement. We have gone through an amazing experience, I think, as a nation the last few weeks, and just really honing in on solutions is what this conversation is about. What can we do in our community that can really activate our, I would say, almost one of the largest industries that we have, which is our financial industry, to make sure that we are addressing the needs of the community? And I have really been blessed to have an amazing panel this morning where we can really share some very tactical tools and ideas and concepts that can inspire this entire industry to really look at possibilities. Already, CRA officers are doing so much to deliver an estimated $300 billion into our communities across the nation. That's an impressive number. And in many cases, the ways that are really addressing the CRA goals are somewhat antiquated, but some are pretty outstanding. And what we want to do as a foundation is to truly highlight some of those outstanding tools that we recognize can really make a difference as you're working hard to address those CRA goals. So I would like to give a special thanks before we get started to Stephen Jordan, the founder of ISD, and Kalandra Sharank. Nick, thank you so much. Forgive me, Kalandra, if I mispronounced your name, but we're going to have a chance to really learn about Statebook because you're doing some incredible work around measuring the actual impact of CRA efforts, and that is key. And we look forward to learning more as we wrap the presentation. So I want us to kick off just really quickly to talk about some of the wonderful trends that are happening in our CRA efforts across the country. So I want to hand that over to you, Byron. Byron, as he is joining us, Byron Young is one of our first founding board members of Bank on Your Network, and so thrilled to have you speak on this industry.
Awesome. Thank you, Carla. And nice to meet everyone. So really what I want to talk about is just take a step back and just talk about the Community Reinvestment Act itself, right? And just talk about how what's being done to monetize it. But really what I want to take to a step is talk through is just kind of the landscape and how it's reshaping the banks and contributing to like the community development, especially addressing like financial disparities, and support economic resilience. With the regulatory reform, there's a lot with technology. If I can talk this morning, guys. Technological resilience, inclusion, and strong focus on equity. Where is the CRA today, and where does it stand? Well, there's a renewed focus on a few different pieces, and I'll touch on a few different. The equitable economic development, and modernization of regulatory standards. So back in the 90s is where you'll see the start of where the CRA really jumped into to have some laws to really the Community Reinvestment Act on how we would do business and how we would change our community needs. But as we see evolving over the last 20, 30 years, that there's a need for the OCC, which is our Officer of Controller of the Currency, and the Federal Reserve Board and the FDIC to step in and say, we need to do a little bit more for our communities. And what we're doing with our banking practices to standardize that so that there's a lot more access and things like that. And they'll speak more about it. I know you guys will speak more about it as we get through the presentation, but essentially what the goal is to really bring those technology to the front service of innovation, right? And so and bring those type of needs to the communities that's going to really drive change. One of the things they're going to focus on, you're going to see coming up, is that there's going to be more about the CRA assessments, to really drive home some of the different needs of the community, right? So we can really focus on what's happening in the community, where's the need, and what can we do to focus it. And then also look at it from the perspective of the inequalities that we're seeing within our communities as well. So, I mean, that's looking at the low income areas, low income and moderate income communities, and put a greater emphasis on accessing how banks could serve our communities better from a color perspective, from social justice movements that highlight financial inequalities. Some of the revised rules that you're seeing coming down the pipeline is and we just spoke about it, the data points. How are banks measuring these historically underserved communities? How offering more incentives to invest in affordable housing, small businesses, community development in these areas. There's a few facts I want to just bring to the table really quick. And one of the facts is 38% of Americans are unbanked or underbanked. And a lot of that is systemic. But by addressing this, what that shows is that 38% of Americans do not have access to products or feel they don't have access to products. And that's one of the biggest things that CRA officers can really focus on at this point, is those different elements of how do we take that margin down, or how do we make our products better to serve these underbanked or underserved banks, or excuse me, underserved folks. Additionally, with that being said, the loss of revenue that banks are losing, over 174 billion is being lost just by not catering or having access or allowing access or having that economic literacy there for folks to actually realize that there are options out here for folks. And so what I would do is I want to turn it over to Candy. She's my PIC partner in compliance. And so she can talk a little bit more about how these things would better align, and different things that we can do to drive some of the efforts and initiatives for CRA officers.
Thank you, Byron. I appreciate that. I wanted to really talk about the technology integration, increased bank accountability, transparency, and partnerships with the community as it relates to CRA and the gig economy. That is one thing that we really wanted to address today. But I'm going to start off with a staggering percentage. Over 36% of the U.S. workforce is now engaged in the gig economy. I don't have past percentages, but that seems like a very, very good percentage of users that are out there. And then 450 billion global gig economy markets for 2023. So we really expect the gig economy to really explode over the next couple of years. And we want to bring the gig economy into the CRA fold. The CRA will allow the gig economy users enhanced access to credit, financial inclusion, of course, community development, and hold on one second, let me turn my page. Support for entrepreneurship. Now, that is a really big one with gig economies, because they are entrepreneurs and they need that extra emphasis to help them grow their small businesses. And gig workers, they need that necessary financial support to grow. And addressing inequalities, or I'm sorry, inequities. The CRA movement aims to address systemic inequities and access to credit by ensuring that financial institutions serve all segments of their community, including those in LMI areas. CRA can help reduce the financial disparities among gig workers that they often face. This can lead to a more equitable distribution of financial resources for the gig economy. And I'll wrap that up by saying the Community Reinvestment Act has the potential to positively impact the gig economy by enhancing access to credit, promoting financial inclusion, supporting community development, and addressing systemic inequities. These effects can help gig workers secure better financial opportunities, improve economic stability, and contribute to the overall growth of their communities. And I will hand the reins back over to Carla.
Thank you so much, Candace and Byron. That was extraordinary. Both of them, Candace and Byron, are compliance officers, and some of just their insights as I've gotten to know both of them very well. Cleon will go forward in the slide deck. Thank you. It's just been tremendous, and having the ability for us to be able to talk about what's happening on a hyper-local basis. What are some of those tools? So we'll go to the next slide. Right past Candace and Byron. Okay, so the next slide. There we go. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so one of the things that we really focus on with the foundation is to highlight social capital as well as financial capital. In many ways, there has been a conversation that's gone on for decades now. Really started, I would say, by several individuals that were looking at the other economic systems that were playing on top of the monetary system. A mentor of mine for over now 20 years, he did transition on in 2022. His name is Dr. Edgar Khan. He is known historically for really helping to create a tool that helps to measure this idea of an alternative economy. We have a core economy, we have a monetary economy. One of the things with YING is that we wanted to bring both of those economies into the forefront of fintech. What can we do to be able to make sure and ensure that both connections and economies are really playing in balance? So social capital is a large term that you'll hear. We'll talk more about it later. But I wanted to talk about what our foundation is really going to be double clicking on. We're proud to be partnered with Time Bank. So let's go to the next slide. Krista Wyatt, I'm going to give her an opportunity to talk about this amazing movement that's underway. Krista, I'll hand it over to you, but please now meet Krista Wyatt, the head of Time Banks.
Hi, welcome. I'm very excited to be partners here with Carla, and especially to share about the movement of time banking. So as you can see, it's 42 countries, 3.4 million exchanges. Well, what does that really mean? Well, that means that time banking is doing pretty good. We have been out here, our organization has been out there for the past 30 years. Dr. Edgar Khan is the founder of our organization, and I was happy to meet with him and really talk about the next steps of what we're going to do about time banks. Especially after COVID, because a lot of time banks struggled. That whole social distancing part really impacted a lot of us, because the whole point of time banking is meeting people. And so we turned the page and we really wanted to dive deeper into the community and really work with different types of time banks that are out there. And then all of a sudden, these time banks started popping up all over the place. We met people from the Ukraine to Saudi Arabia to China to realize we have so many time banks that are out there. And we realized, gosh, I would say close to, 980 time banks. And it's just fantastic, but they need help. And that's where we come in. We've spent a lot of time researching and really understanding what are the needs in the community. And really, it's just the member engagement and us being involved in their lives. It's just a reminder of what we're worth. And that's what time banking is all about, is it's just introducing a new economy, which is the time that we give. And I think it's brilliant. I think that when we talk about a parallel economy, it's not to replace money. It's just definitely there to help make ends meet. And that's where time banking comes in, is that I've been in nonprofit for 30 years and I never heard of time banking until about 8 years ago. And it just blew my mind. Why can't we have time banks all over? It meets the needs of everyone. And one of my favorite stories I love to share, and I mentioned it to Carla, is in time banking, there's no boundaries. Anybody could join a time bank. And one of my favorite stories that I listened to last year, was in the International Time Banking Day in March, which we celebrate Edgar's birthday, is that even an 11-month-old baby received time credits for smiling. And I think that that's exactly what's so powerful about it, is that anybody can be involved in a time bank. And it really, it's really us building trust again in our community. I don't know how many times, is it easier for you to go on your phone and go to Uber or Lyft and find a ride to whether it's a doctor's office or, to the airport, when you have your neighbor who can help you?
So Krista,
It's that
this is
aha moment.
this is where I want to jump in real quick before we have to move on. One of the things that I love about having been part of this movement for so long is that people are learning for the first time, when you're holding space for a time bank session, to really get to know each other, right? And to hear the actual needs that they have in a vulnerable moment, but also what skills they have, right? When we created YING, it's all about that gig economy. It's all about sharing skills with each other. And so we're able to have within our technology both a time token that we're able to exchange called Skillies, and then also regular cash, where people can earn money on the platform. So Krista, when you think about one of those time banks, right, where people have really thrived and they've been able to increase their resiliency, that they've been able to become deeper connected neighbors and actually save some cash. What are some of those time banks that come to your mind?
Well, let's see. There are time banks that I know of. One of them is in New York. It was a younger crowd that they started realizing, everything is super expensive. So they decided to exchange some of their goods as time credits. And it was extremely helpful, especially, there was a millennial generation that they exchanged from lawnmowers to ladders. These are people that have two jobs and still can't make ends meet. So those are things that really helped that particular time bank. There are another time bank in Massachusetts where it's a group of, they have children with special needs. And so the time bank is for parents who have children with special needs, because, there's things that happen with children that those parents are very familiar with, whether it's medication or, some type of tolerance or any kind of, special education that is needed for those children. So they close that time bank for the families that are experiencing that. So that it helped them from babysitting. It took time where, mom needed to go to the grocery store. Hey, can someone come out here real quick and watch, Philip? He's not happy when it comes to being outside. Absolutely. That she reaches out to her time bank for that, because that person knows that what's going on, what are the needs, what's going on in the family. So I think it's brilliant of that particular
Right.
time bank.
So you have some exciting work that has just happened, where if people want to start a time bank, they can now go to your website. Can you share a little bit about that URL for everybody? And yeah.
Absolutely. Dr. Edgar Kahn actually changed our organization's name about 4 years ago. It's funny because his words are powerful, but we were at one point Time Dollar Institute and then Time Banks USA. But when we were USA, we had so many countries being part of our organization. So I said, well, let's just call it timebanks.org. So that is the name of our organization. That is our URL, timebanks.org. Let's keep it silly and easy, right?
There you go.
So yeah, absolutely. What we've done, we're excited for this new launch of who we are as an organization. We have new board. Carla is actually sitting on our board, and we have so much going for us. We have time banks that are all over that are willing to be part of our circles, our committees, and whatnot to really make sure that time banking is not only sustainable, but it's out there and it's attainable, where there's mentors that could really help them start their time bank. And so we actually have several programs to start a time bank. You know, again, our organization is about meeting your needs, where the time bank needs us, whether if they need to start a time bank and they have no money, or they need to start a time bank and they need a lot more help with the structure, we're there. So
That's great.
it's awesome. I mean, time banks are tribes, they're in villages, they're in small communities, big communities. It's just something that we're ready to tackle.
And we're going to take it around the world. We are going to take it around the world. And this is that time. Krista Wyatt, thank you so much. And we are thrilled to be partnered with Time Banks, because not only is it representative of a mentor of mine, both personally and professionally, but also the extraordinary work that's happening day in and day out with time banks. Why is that relative to CRAs? Because you have to be able to measure. You have to be able to measure the outcome in communities when you're investing almost nearly $300 billion. And so we believe time banks could be at the core of a lot of the work that we're doing with our CRA efforts. So I want to share with you a little bit about our platform. We're thrilled. We're back on the Apple Store. We're back on the Play Store, and we also have a web application as well. And we're thrilled because we get to partner with banks. We get to partner with community members to ensure that the gig economy, almost projected to be a $450 billion industry. And as you heard earlier, 38% of our workforce are now identifying as gig economy players. You have Uber, you have TaskRabbit, you have all these wonderful things. What we do very uniquely is we bring a social trusted network for each of us to have our own gig economies and our own ability to be empowered to earn a living. But not only that, we also have an opportunity to bring time banks into the software, bringing both of those economies together. To learn more, we'll learn more towards the end, but let's go to the next slide. All right. One of the things that I realized more than ever is that we are not always in position to hear exactly what's happening right on the ground, where it matters the most, where we're measuring our impact. And I am thrilled to have Kristen Clark join us from Germantown, my hometown, born and raised in Philadelphia. Germantown is the place of first. We're talking the first abolitionist march. That is the home and the land of our Lenape brothers and sisters, and thrilled to be able to have Kristen Clark, who is a visionary there and an amazing individual leading Germantown Arts District. So I'm going to hand the next over to Kristen so that we can highlight some of the amazing local work that's going on. Kristen.
Hello. Thank you, Carla. Hello, everybody. Super glad to be joining you today. As Carla said, my name is Kristen Clark. I am the founder and executive director of the Germantown Arts District. A lot of my work is rooted in community and making sure that we are able as neighbors to engage in our creativity, increase our access to resources, and make sure that we are living meaningful, purposeful lives that actually impact one another. I live by the philosophy of Ubuntu, which means I am because we are. It is a shared humanity, and understanding essentially that there is individual power within the collective, and that is what drives our society forward. So as you can imagine, a lot of my work is creative based, engaging with young people and a lot of community members who are longstanding residents of Germantown. I give you that background to let you know what it is that makes Germantown an absolutely perfect platform and opportunity for time banking. Um, what we do here in Germantown is we engage and make sure that every neighbor understands that they have access to their community. And they have access to their community in a way that will support their pursuit of creativity, right? So we work really hard to re-centralize Germantown as an arts and culture destination and as a premier destination for innovative arts education. Right. So we want all of the bright ideas, all of the trendsetters, all of the thought leaders of the world to look at Germantown as a beacon and a calling card. In order to do that, we have to engage a lot with people, neighbors, organizations, uh, and the city as a whole, and convincing them that there is an alternative way of thinking and pursuing happiness in life takes a lot of, I'll say, resources that we don't often have. So, how I've been able to do the work that I do in these creative endeavors, and I'll just spit out really quickly, and this is going to feel weird for me because I'm not trying to give my resume, but I need to paint a broader picture of what it is that gets done in Germantown and what you guys can look forward to seeing if you are in the area or plan on visiting us anytime soon. Um, in Germantown, we are 100% known for being a historic space, right? For the story of America. But currently, what's happening is we are making history in waves and creating stories and opportunities that will be told for the next 250, 500 years. Some of the work that I've been very fortunate and blessed enough to be a part of is one, the opening of the first fine art photography gallery of a single artist's work, owned and operated by a African American. That is right here in the city of Philadelphia, right here on Germantown Ave. That is Ubuntu Fine Art Gallery. That opened in 2021. Nope, 2021. I'm also the founder and owner and operator of the first Black Box Theater in Germantown, the Kinesics Dance Dynamics Theater. That is also something that is wildly absurd for this community and for this area. In addition to all of that, we are the birthplace of some amazing thought leaders and some amazing creatives. Ursula Rucker, Sonia Sanchez calls this home, Sun Ra, Mark Lamont Hill. Who else do we have? Oh, of course, Mr. Before I Let Go himself.
That's right.
Mr. Before I Let Go himself is also a resident of Germantown. And what we really have worked hard on doing is taking the world of capitalism and recentering it around human interaction. So we host interactive arts festivals, right? Which means it's an opportunity for folks to come out and engage in arts that they have never necessarily thought about or pursued and feel comfortable enough to do that while we're out here trying to survive. We create opportunities for community engagement like our annual block party. We support artist initiatives. We are part of the Dream It Up and Make It Happen ideology, which means if there's a creative in the landscape that has a dream or has an idea, we're the battery pack. We power that, and we don't do that with the typical funding you would see a nonprofit organization having. The Germantown Arts District works really strongly around social capital. Okay. Everything and anything that I've been able to pull off in Germantown has been because of social capital. Very recently, I think 2 weeks ago, we actually pulled off what bottom dollar was a $10,000 festival. And we managed to pull that off with only 2,500 in actual tangible capital. That is all the dollars that came from my bank account. And the power in being able to do that can extend past just putting on, interactive arts activities for communities. It can go into building black box theaters, creating platforms and places for people to grow, learn, engage, exchange. And that's what we're looking to do. So coming up, we have some projects that we are super excited about. First and foremost, we are looking forward to the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So America's semi-quincentennial is coming up in 2026. And the Germantown Arts District is proud to lead the Germantown 250 Coalition. And our project of The Story Starts Here. Our entire campaign is about re-engaging that historic, trend-setting, rebellious energy that made America in 1776. Yep, I did that right. That got us here in 1776, re-engaging it, confronting our history, confronting our shortcomings, confronting all of what makes us us, and re-engaging that energy around this is what we want, this is what we deserve, and we create the world we wish to see. So that is the huge project that we're working on. We're working on our second annual Interactive Arts Festival, hoping to make it the largest interactive arts festival in the region. We shut down Germantown Avenue for one day, and we make sure that there is art making in the streets, not crafts, but art making. So we ask for corporate sponsors and businesses to come out and actually kind of break the fourth wall a bit. Tell us what it is you do to stay creative, to pursue the life that you have. And we're really working on, super excited about this, the Germantown Jazz Festival that's coming up, and a project that we're working on, and bringing more artists and creatives and thought leaders to Germantown, making sure that we have a foundational home that, again, re-centralizes people in this world of capitalism. And in order to do that, time banking really is the key. So we're very excited to be the pilot neighborhood in Philadelphia for this initiative, and really looking forward to one, hopefully hosting all of you in 2026. But really looking forward to reaffirming what success, what financial stability, what access looks like for this community.
Oh, Kristen, my goodness. Thank you so much. That was incredible. And I think it's sometimes we don't get a chance to amplify the type of work that's happening right there on the ground. And we're talking about, because I was Kristen back in the day, right? I remember sacrificing and earning all the social capital when I was doing work in Southeast DC. That's where I met Edgar. Just being able to have your time measured matters. To be able to have your time measured matters. Also, it matters because, again, I have to emphasize this number, estimated $300 billion going in to communities from CRA efforts. We need to make sure some of those monies are coming directly to you and your way. And that's why I wanted to highlight the amazing work you're doing. One, because also we are, America, about ready to start to get ready for 2026, which is the 250th anniversary of this country. And where did it start? Where did it start? That's right, Kristen.
The story starts here, right here in Germantown. So yeah, we're super excited to be a part.
Thank you for that. And if you don't know your history, guys, go back, check it out. Know that George Washington, one of the first White Houses in the United States, is right in Germantown, as I mentioned earlier. And the history of banking started in Philadelphia, in Germantown. So definitely lots to dive into. I am thrilled to be able to introduce to you our next speaker, an amazing executive at iHeartMedia. I have just been blown away by her skills, her talent, her knowledge, and her heart to really stay doubly focused on not only driving revenue, which we all have to do, and figuring out mutual ways for it to be beneficial to the community. I want to introduce to you Karen McClary, president of the Memphis market at iHeartMedia. Karen, I want to hand it over to you for you to share a little bit about the wonderful tools that you are able to highlight for us today and the power behind media and CRA.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can you guys hear me okay? Wonderful. Well, thank you for that introduction, Carla. Hello to all of our attendees that are taking part of this really impactful webinar and sharing of information as it pertains to community amplification and awareness. As Carla mentioned, my name is Karen McCrary. I am the market president for Memphis and Tupelo here in the southeastern region of the United States. And my role is to really just connect the dots, right? My role is to connect the dots between community and us as one of the largest media companies in the country. My role is to, I often tease and say that I do a little bit of everything around here, right? But that's my primary job. And of course, as we know, to drive revenue, right? Like that's pretty high on the list as well. But one of the things that I take very, very personally and that I find myself giving to most often is the community piece. I have worked in media for a number of years and understand the significance of not only embracing the community that you're a part of, but really and truly connecting the dots between those of us that are community members and those of us that are in positions like myself that have the ability to connect those messages being heard throughout, right? And, there's so many wonderful examples of that. I was actually smiling as Kristen was talking because toward the end of her reel, I saw that Q102
right.
Stephanie and Pete in the background, right? And I was like, see, there's that iHeart representation with the community, because as she talked about the things that were impactful to the community, as she talked about the things that are important to Germantown, it was a really proud moment for me, not even knowing that that was going to be there, to see Q102 represented in the background, because just as social capital is important to what she's doing for the work in Germantown, right? iHeart is there to help make that connection and amplify that message and let members of the community know what people like Kristen are doing and what organizations like hers and how they can positively impact the community, right? We've got a footprint of, as you can see there, over 850 stations across this country. We are represented in over 250 markets, and we've got over 250 million monthly listeners across all of our different platforms. And it's really interesting in this day and time when you hear people often ask, well, is radio still relevant? Like, do people even still listen to the radio? And I can very proudly and matter-of-factly state that absolutely, right? If anything, we're probably listening even more than what we ever listened in the past, simply because of all the different ways that we can engage. And, it's really interesting because depending on who you're talking to, the term radio means different things, right? If you're someone of a certain age, right, you're thinking that radio is about sitting down in your home and turning a dial and listening in your house, or maybe when you get in your car, turning that dial or pushing that button on your radio in your car, and that's radio. But then when you start to really engage the younger generation, you realize that when they're streaming, you realize that when they're listening to podcasts, you realize that for them, all of that is radio, right? Because they are engaging with content that is an audio platform. And I think that's one of the things that we really lean into, because yes, we're one of the largest media companies in the country, but we are the largest audio company in the country. And you have to really understand the impact of that and what it means for you, those of you that are on this call, for communities, for society. One of those last bullets there talks about, that outreach, right? And how important the outreach is. So one of the things we wanted to highlight and talk about in this example is the disaster recovery campaign in North Carolina. This is truly, guys, a real world example of how the power of audio is so necessary and so needed and so strong, right? To those of us that are a part of the communities day to day. So we know the tragedy that this country experienced as it relates to Hurricane Helene earlier this year and the kind of destruction that we saw. Well, when you talk about North Carolina specifically, right, and even more intentionally Asheville, I mean, there are quotes that you can look at across the internet, right, that talk about it looks like literally bombs went off in the community.
Right.
Like literally, like communities were leveled, and particularly in Asheville and areas of Asheville. So what you're seeing here is what the aid looks like in those communities, the individual assistance, what temporary housing looks like, and what distribution looks like. But one of the things that I really wanted to hone in on and talk about is what iHeart's role was in what that looked like again, speaking about the power of community, connecting the dots, coming together. When this happened earlier this year, guys, you know, this was a Category 4 hurricane that, you know, I think has gone on record as being something that this country really hasn't seen at this magnitude, particularly as it stretched along, you know, kind of the eastern seaboard. We had many stations and clusters across. We refer to inside the building radio as clusters when you talk about all of our stations that are part of a particular group in a city. But many clusters, many stations throughout the country were responsible for helping contribute to the recovery efforts. But in particular, guys, I want to really highlight one, WWNC, which is an AM station in Asheville, and more specifically, Mark Starling, which was an on-air host, right? An on-air DJ that really kept the community informed. When everything was down, when there was no way of reaching people, when people were trying to find out if they had family members that were, you know, alive and well, or God forbid, passed away, right? Because we know that we lost over 200 people in that devastating storm. I mean, this was really about the only way you could do it. There was in many cases no utilities, there was no Wi-Fi, there weren't the modern day ways of connecting and understanding. But what happened was, you want to talk about boots on the ground, right? The impact of AM radio, and by the way, this is something that has been on Capitol Hill and has been talked about for the last several years, the possibility of taking away AM radio. Oh, you know, we don't need that anymore. Technology has come so far that it really is not necessary to have something like AM radio for transmitters. Well, let me just tell you right now, if this most recent incident of the storm was not key evidence of the vitality of AM radio and how it contributes to being the true backbone of this country in regards to delivering information, keeping people informed, connecting people to just even find their persons and their people and their family. This was such an example of this. The vitality of broadcast and broadcast radio really shined in Helene's aftermath. And we saw that from the cluster of stations in Asheville, most specifically that one that I mentioned, because guess what, guys? When there's no utilities, when there's no Wi-Fi, AM radio, the technology behind AM radio, as we know it being very impactful in the business community especially, is still going to work, right? Because it's such an old technology that really uses a different wave, if you will, from everything else that we use in this day and time. So I really wanted to stop and talk about that for a minute, because the impact of what we were able to contribute back to the community and the pieces we were able to bring back together were very impactful. The value of media in sustaining and communicating ongoing community initiatives is unparalleled, right? And we have so many ways that we can do that. One of the benefits of iHeart and why we're valuable to people like yourselves and other people within the business community is because there really isn't any shortage of how we can communicate information. Yes, audio is our wheelhouse, it is our background, it's what most people come to us for and know us for, but we are a full-blown media agency. That's what we are, that's what we do, not only for business decision makers like yourself, but also everything from small businesses all the way to major global corporations. We are delivering their audiences in the way that they need it every single day. And that's what it really comes down to, right? What it comes down to is identifying who your audience is and getting the right message in front of them for what's needed. So when you talk about you being CRAs and your need to really communicate to the communities, the impact of how you can assist and help them make that leveraging tie across their communities and give back to the community and grow this underbanked, right? This low income, moderate income community and help bridge that gap that makes for a stronger and greater community. We have the tools to help you do that. We actively work with different financial institutions and CRA officers currently to really help them deliver those messages to the right people. We know that it's important for the masses to hear messages in many instances, but let's not forget about the abilities to market one-to-one. And when you're looking for a segment of the community that may be a slither, that may be more niche, that may not be the masses, we have the tools, we have the resources, we have the data that help to support who those audiences are we're going after, deliver messages very intentionally to those, and then show you the metrics on the results of those campaigns. You know, I have joining me today someone that's on our team that is fantastic with helping do that here at the local level, Tia Bryant. But the beauty about what we do is that you can sit anywhere and do it, right? I could help any of you. Tia could assist any of you on this call today with trying to understand the best strategies for your marketing efforts, the best way to spend your marketing dollars, the best way to invest those to ensure that you're getting the impact that you're looking for. And it doesn't matter where you sit, right? We sit here in Memphis, but we're able to do that for people right here in our local community, but also all across the country. Because again, the takeaway is absolutely delivering the right audience. And there's no greater way to do that than working with a media company that's got boots on the ground and people that really, truly understand the impact of that.
Karen, I love that. I love that. I mean, when I think about the influencers that you all represent on a hyper local level in the grassroots communities that often are looked at in LMI, you know, areas, it's rare that we begin to think how we can make these connections of the various sectors.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So,
and sometimes there's a thought process of, oh, well, they do X, but they don't do Y, or they do this, but they don't do that. And I think that's the importance behind conversations like this, helping people just, you know, we have to all be educated in different ways at any given time, just as we're having this webinar today to learn about all these different availabilities, right? But we're here to help you understand that, again, there's not anyone we can't reach. If you need to reach the masses, if you need to go with kind of that overall evergreen message, as I like to say, obviously there's no greater megaphone, as I like to call it, than broadcast radio. That's what that is. That is the megaphone of reaching everyone near and far, right? Yeah. But there are instances that you need to scale that back a little bit, or you need to be more intentional, or you need to show conversion or attribution. And we have the tools and the ability to do that as well. So, you know, I think that's great. What that looks like for every individual CRA office and the market you're responsible for, it looks very different, right? We know overall who the core audience is, but I would invite you to follow up with, you know, conversations with Tia to really allow her to get into having that needs analysis for you as an individual so that you can really know what you can share with her, what your needs are, right? She'll do a little bit of deep diving, ask some questions, learn and understand what you're faced with doing. And then she will be there to be the resource for those of you that are on this call to take it to the next step and say, how do we reach those people? How is this best done most efficiently, most effectively? And that's what we do.
That is amazing on so many levels. And a shout out to you again. And Tia, thank you so much. It is going to be an exciting collaborative moment. In a few minutes, we'll have moments for a little bit of Q&A, but I also want to debrief just with the panelists because the panelists might have questions for each other. And I always think that's interesting to close out with. We are going to be holding monthly webinars as a foundation so that we can get out to you, the CRA officers and financial leaders, to ensure that you have some of the latest work that's happening both on the ground and in fintech. Next month, we'll be hosting a conversation around virtual ATMs, talk about access to capital. And when you think about what Karen and Stephen and Calandra, when I think about what's been happening in North Carolina, in some cases, those ATMs were destroyed. People could not get access to capital. And so looking at new technologies like a virtual ATM that my dear friend Deatro Hughes, he'll be up next month, and he represents a company called Got Spare. So thrilled to be able to share what's happening on that front. We'll go to the next slide. Okay, well, let's open it up. If there's some questions, I'm going to kick us off and put Stephen Jordan out there. Stephen, I'd love for you to share a little bit about what ISD is working on, especially as it relates to recovery in North Carolina.
Uh, Thank you very much, Carla. But I think that we probably should flip because Calandra may need to drop pretty
Oh, great.
quickly.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go over to Calandra, who's a colleague of mine now with ISD work that we're doing with North Carolina Recovery. Calandra is hosting this amazing webinar for us, and she represents the president of, she is the president of State Book. So Calandra, over to you.
Thank you so much, Carla and Stephen, for connecting us all together, and then Carla for this amazing webinar. There's so many valuable resources here, and it's really impressive some of the work that's being done on the ground. And this group is just extraordinary. Super quickly, my company, Statebook, is a location intelligence data company. We're, as you mentioned, Carla, working with Stephen Jordan and ISD in North Carolina on the ground with hurricane recovery, providing the data for folks there that need to apply for grants and determine and prove what was there before and then how they can rebuild and what needs to happen going forward. Statebook supports CRA with visualized dashboards and information that financial institutions need to assess the needs in their communities, demographics, income, poverty, affordable housing, and so forth, down to the census tract level, to ensure that the bank is equitably serving the credit needs of the low to moderate income households across its entire assessment area. And our data is mapped and visualized and streamlines the assessment that financial institutions need to do to ensure that they're equitably serving their communities. And then the banks can even add their own map layers to our data to show where their loans or mortgages or other products are in relation to various communities, income levels, and other disadvantaged criteria. So that's just a little bit about what we do and how we can help support some of the amazing work that's being done on them.
Phenomenal. Thank you so much, Calandra. Okay, now Stephen Jordan, over to you.
Thank you so much. And Carla, I just can't stress enough how important both of these things that we've talked about today, the importance of CRA officers and the importance of AM radio are. I'm a huge fan of AM radio, by the way, and I think iHeartRadio has played a really important role in bringing important information to households across the impact zone. We're talking 58 million people.
Absolutely.
And so really, really hats off to you guys. And Kristen, the stuff that you're doing in Germantown is just amazing. And Carla knows I've been wanting to spread the word about social capital solutions to cities across the country. I believe it's a key function of community resilience. So thank you seriously for everything that you're doing. A little bit about ISD. ISD was founded in 2003. Our mission is to try and strengthen community resilience so that communities can thrive long term. We do a lot of work on resilience before disasters happen. We look at disasters actually as a form of catastrophic development, unfortunately. Whatever good that was happening in a community before a disaster kind of really shines through, but also whatever was wrong and was failing with the community really gets exposed in times of disasters. And so it's a time of great change for people. And then, of course, we're really thinking about the future and sustainable development and how we can showcase innovative solutions for the future. Definition of insanity is continuing to do the same things we've been doing. And our environmental approaches have not been yielding any kind of results. And our social policy, frankly, has led to some really serious negative outcomes for a lot of folks. So we're always looking for innovators and solutions like that. One of the things that we're hoping that CRA officers can start to help us figure out is how to develop turnkey solutions for disaster impacted victims that are kind of immediate. When you look at government capital, it tends to take a minute to come through. And as you guys probably know better than I, like HUD, CDBG, DR funding, it may take over 2 years. we would like to accelerate at least $100 million in capital deployment into the impact zone, way ahead of that. Because I don't know about y'all, but I don't think I can stay 6 weeks on any friends or relatives' couch, let alone 2 years. So the
Right.
faster that we can get stuff going, the faster we can get to better housing solutions and getting kind of the folks that really need it the most, the gig workers and the small businesses in rural and small towns and stressed neighborhoods. God, that I think is so critical for the future resilience and sustainability of these communities. So listen, if you all have questions about anything related to disaster resilience, recovery, or sustainability, just email us at disasterresourcehelpdesk@isdus.org. I'm going to pop it into the chat section, and we have the most amazing group of experts across so many of these domain spheres. If we can't get you the answer, one of our experts knows somebody who can get you the answer. So I'll leave it at that. Carla,
Yeah, that's great.
Love this collaboration with you.
Well, thank you. So I'm going to ask each of you, we're going to go round robin. I'll call your name out, and I have just one question. If you could share with CRA officers, right, some of the most critical message for today and how they can activate, right, to really make sure that their jobs are met better, please leave us with that as we close out. So Karen, I'm going to hand it over to you first.
Yeah, I dropped a note in the chat inviting everyone to reach out to Tia and or myself. Tia has dropped in there a link to her calendar to schedule time to have those one-on-one conversations. I really, really encourage you to take advantage of that. We are happy and open to do so. This is what we do every day. This is a really important initiative. All these conversations are very impactful. And I think the biggest takeaway that I would give you is saying, reach out so that we can figure out for you as an individual what we can do to help make your job easier and better. That's what we're here to do. So that link is in there. It's already been dropped in. Please use it. We're happy to appease.
I love that. Thank you so much, Karen. Krista, over to you.
Is it Krista? Me?
Krista, yes.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. We have so much to do. There's a lot of work ahead of us, especially in the next couple of months. I actually am from North Carolina, so I witnessed what was going on here, and it was devastating. It was heartbreaking. We lost members in our family, and it was hard to reach out to, where are they? So time banking is something that we really need to put into in our world again. I think that it would be extremely valuable with our communities to have. We need to reconnect with time banking. So I'm just excited about the partnership here. We have a lot of work ahead. So one of the things that Edgar had really stressed before he passed on was really reaching out to communities and sharing each other's stories. And that's something that we have in our pockets right now, is a lot of time banking stories. So I'm definitely excited to share those stories more, to really show how time banking works in communities. So
I love that, and can be measured for CRA, which I love. Byron, over to you, and then Candy.
Yes. One thing I can only stress and moving forward is just for communities to re-understand the needs of the community. I think that's one of the biggest focuses that can be put on is that we're not in the 90s anymore. We're now in 2025, or soon to be. And with that being said, there's a lot of innovation in a lot of different areas that we can succeed and move forward, just driving from the innovation side of it, just to really drive home that everyone should have access to products, services, and the whole 9 yards. So
I love that. Candy, and then Kristen.
Yes, the innovative products is something I really want the bank CRA officers to focus on. Open your mind and see what type of innovative products that you can really move on and be impactful with the community on.
I love that coming from both of you as compliance officers, because you are the front line before that CRA, guideline needs to be enacted. And so you are able to see and be open, frankly, to new products, right, that we can start leveraging in communities. So I appreciate that. Kristen, over to you.
I think my answer is probably a little more robust and direct than everyone else's on the call. I think
Say it. This is good. It's coming from the
think
community.
this is definitely an opportunity to kind of help foster sustainable development, build stronger communities or help us build stronger communities. And we can definitely do that starting not just in Germantown, but in all of similar communities across the nation. So like we can leverage time banking and volunteer networks. That's something that's super important. Incentivizing employee volunteering, advocate for community achievements, like the things that we work and do on a day-to-day. Those things are important. So I think it would be really crucial at this point to literally just connect the boots on the ground to the resources, to the capital, to the opportunities that we need in order to continue pushing these initiatives forward. That looks like financial contributions, that looks like investing in arts, that looks like supporting business development and entrepreneurs like myself, engaging in community partnerships. It's just doing a bit more of what we're doing already and doing it alongside of us in a very visible manner. I think supporting these types of initiatives, banking on our network, tokenizing our time and our contributions in that way, that actually kind of keeps the ball rolling. So that's
right. I love that you said that, Kristen. And just as we wrap, we have to announce that Kristen and I are going to get together in Germantown and bring forward blockchain literacy for the first time, blockchain 101, in a historical mill that has now been made into a co-working space called the Braid Mill. So that is on the 18th of November. This is where we are really talking the talk, right? Let's figure out how do we bring new and innovative technologies to our community. So once again, thank you, Kristen, for that. And thank you, each of you, for joining this webinar. We are thrilled to be able to kick off our next one on December 13th. But on behalf of YING and the Banking on Your Network Foundation and each one of you, I appreciate the time. Thank you guys for joining. Take care.